I wanted to thank everyone for joining us this morning / afternoon. What we're going to talk about here today are some of the ways that we're seeing artificial intelligence transforming the business side of marketing and business development. And so the structure of the presentation is such that we're really trying to focus on providing insight for technologists and innovators that are looking for use cases on how to apply this specific technology. And so with us, obviously it's myself. My name is Jason Noble. I'm co-founder and chief product strategist of ikaun. That just means that I engage with our clients on a daily basis to figure out the problems that they have and how best we can solve those. We also have Patrick DiDomenico from InspireKM or InspireKM Consulting. He actually has an amazing pedigree, having practiced law, having been one of the first chief knowledge managers or chief knowledge officers for a firm. So he brings great experience as it relates to obviously managing the knowledge, both on the business development side as well as in other aspects of law. Then we also have Peter Giovannis. He actually is starting a new role today, so he will not be live on the presentation, but we actually did have a conversation with him on Friday, so we're going to get his insights. We're going to pull up a video and talk to him. So the format is that we just want to give you an approach for assessing AI's business value. Again, we're very focused on business development and marketing. So everything we talk about is in the context of business development and marketing. Then we're going to highlight the 3 ways that we've seen AI transforming business development. And then we're also going to get into a demonstration of what we call IKA, which is our intelligent knowledge assistant, that is a generative AI based artificial intelligence solution for helping you to automatically respond to RFPs, to generate pitches and proposals. And so with that, what I'd like to do is actually open a poll question. We want to kind of get some insight into how you all are viewing the leveraging of this technology. So Dylan, would you mind go ahead and sharing that poll, please? Right. Okay. So the first is your firm exploring the use of AI to reduce costs of non-billable work? And that's, one of the things that we're finding is that kind of attacking the non-billable hour is becoming the popular use case, the current popular use case. And then, of course, the second question is a follow-up of where do you see where is your firm looking to invest in generative AI to reduce those overall costs? And so I'm not sure if you all can see it, but not surprisingly, the vast majority of the folks are voting for marketing and business development, about 65%. And then in library services, we have about 35% of the people voting on that. Knowledge management, huge. 60%. So 60% of you all feel that knowledge management is ripe for change. And then Dylan, I'm not sure, can you share those results? Can the audience see those?
Yep, we're at 53% of people participated so far. I'll keep it open for like 20 more seconds and then I'll share.
Okay.
And I'm sure we want to encourage people to use the chat to chime in on any specifics about what they might be using these things for.
Yeah, absolutely.
Here are the final results.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so just a quick visual check. Can you all see a slide that says value assessment? Yeah. Okay, perfect. Okay, so just to set some context, this is very trivial, kind of simple concepts, right? So when we look at how to impact value or how technology impacts value, we look at 3 things, which is how does it generate revenue, how does it reduce costs, and then how does it create better results? So pretty basic kind of, academic type value assessment. But what's more important is that one of the things that we really need to do when looking at any technology, especially artificial intelligence, is what we want to do is, first thing that's most important is obviously understanding what generative AI is and is not good at. Like, what are the core use cases that generative AI is really, really good at? Then what we recommend doing is you go through identifying your team, your individual or your department's core responsibilities. And so here in a few slides, we list out what we believe are some of the core responsibilities for marketing and business development. But so it's important to say, hey, here are the things that we do. And then what you do is you move in and you say, okay, for the things that generative AI is really, really good at, how could it impact one of these core responsibilities? And then you ideate. And we've done some initial research and some initial surveys to come up with a group of core responsibilities and how generative AI can be applied to those. So let's get into what any of these large language models are really, really good at. And so the reason that marketing and business development is so interesting and being so impacted by this is because a lot of what we do in marketing and BD is we create content, right? And so having an assistant there with you to help you create this content, being that that's one of the core use cases of generative AI, obviously marketing and business development can benefit massively from this particular technology.
Whereas Alex, we can severely reply, the level of total fees no below any threshold. That was
good. Maybe that was a summarization of my slide. I appreciate that. So the second is around creative assistance. Now, I'm not sure if anyone in the audience has done this, but one of the more powerful things about ChatGPT and any of these technologies is that it can help you get started, right? So it can create a structure. You can almost have an open conversation with this technology where it helps you come up with ideas. You can ask it for ideas, it can respond, and then that kind of gets the thought process going. I think a lot of the times what we struggle with as content creators or just creative people is getting started. Like, where do we start? We have a blank piece of paper, we have a blank canvas. Where do we get started? It's amazing at helping with that. The third most popular is actually language translation and interpretation. Now, I've used this, and yes, it's very, very powerful, very, very good. I personally do not feel that the language translation and interpretation is necessarily one of the most valuable aspects of generative AI, specifically around marketing and business development. Now, if you're a global firm and you have to do a lot of translating of content to multiple languages, yes, it's valuable. Yes, it saves you time. The reality, though, is that you do still have to have somebody go in and make sure, somebody who's understands that language, the target language, and have them read it and do the proofreading. So it's really good at getting a draft, but you still have to have somebody come in. The one that I think, which actually falls a little bit further down the list in terms of generative AI's value proposition, is around what is termed automated report and document creation. And I want you to focus in on the document creation, because that's really where we're focusing on. Obviously, in marketing and business development, you're creating pitches, proposals, RFPs, you're writing a ton of website content, you're writing thought leadership pieces. So this is really where we feel that it has a dramatic impact on marketing and business development. Okay, so first thing we talked about is what is generative AI good at? And so we listed out those kind of 4 things. Then what we recommend you do is we recommend that you ask yourself, what is your team's responsibility? What is your department's responsibility? What is marketing and business development's responsibility to the firm? On the left-hand side, you see a series of items that we feel are the most obvious. Things like brand building, customer relationship management, client acquisition, lead generation, market research, things like that. So you take that and then you ask yourself, okay, so knowing that we have these kind of 3 or 4 core use cases, how can OpenAI or any of these technologies help us with brand building and positioning? Well, if you ask yourself, well, how can it help with content creation? It can help you create high quality content that's engaging for your audience. So things that you can obviously do is you can say, within ChatGPT, you can say, I'm an expert in delivering legal services for healthcare IP litigation. What are the top 3 concerns the industry has in this particular area of law? So you can help it start to create content in that regard. Branding and messaging and taglines. Obviously, I think it's really funny. I've been through probably 15, 20 efforts where we try to come up with a vision statement and a tagline and all that stuff. And inevitably, they always kind of sound the same. So you can probably really quickly come up with a new fancy tagline really, really quickly. And then obviously creating marketing copy and collateral. Now, I didn't want to focus too much on the brand building and positioning aspect, but I just wanted to lay out that step 1, list out the things that you all are responsible for at the individual team and department level, and then start asking these questions. Now, the ones that we wanted to focus on today are a couple of these, because we wanted to share with you what we're seeing is the most impactful areas or responsibilities that are being impacted by generative AI. And we keep coming back to this, but it really is around content creation and thought leadership. So generating of thought-provoking articles and insights. So again, it can help you. Again, you can ask that question, hey, what are the top 3 areas of concern in a particular area of law or in a particular practice area? And while maybe it doesn't come back with your opinion, maybe you have unique insight that you have a different opinion on that particular topic. But what it can do is it can help you set a structure that says, hey, this is a good way to kind of position your argument or what have you. And it gives you some ideas. And also, one of the things that's really amazing is that it's a lot easier to be a content editor than it is to be a content creator. Right. And so if you can use these technologies to have them come back with a loose draft, it can get you thinking, right? And you can say, well, you know what? Yeah, it came back with these 3, but those aren't correct. Or maybe that one's correct, but I would change it a little bit. So it's a lot easier to get your thoughts flowing when something's been presented to you. So again, the creation of thought-provoking content. And I think, Patrick, there are some use cases that you have specifically around this particular process. Did you want to go ahead and share out some of those?
Yeah, one of the things, to your point, I think the point about editing rather than creating is a really good point. Getting those juices flowing. When you have something to work with that you can sort of shape and edit rather than just from a blank sheet of paper, super, super valuable. I use this all the time. I'm producing a conference, for example, that's in October of this year. And I'm constantly trying to come up with different ways to relate to people and put ads out on LinkedIn and things like that. Come up with ways to summarize some of the sessions and things like that. So I use ChatGPT, of course. So using it to upload certain information. To your point earlier, I'm an expert in XYZ, right? Or what I like to say is pretend you're an expert in knowledge management and innovation, take on this role, and then give me 3 examples of titles for sessions around this topic or that topic.
Yeah, it's amazing doing that, right? It's incredible.
It really is. And to your point earlier, Jason, usually it's not like it doesn't knock it out of the park. But it gets close enough to where I can use it and tweak just a couple words. And boy, that sounds good. I'm going to use that. And then the other thing is, I'm not a marketer, right? I'm not an expert in this stuff, so I don't really know. ChatGPT uses the knowledge of the internet, and it sees lots of different ads and lots of different things. So I kind of defer in some respects to some of the phrasing and some of the ways that it will come up with titles and things like that, and tweak it a little bit so it sounds like it's coming from me rather than completely computer generated. So it's very, very useful in that respect. I like it quite a bit. The other very useful thing that I do is I have it summarize articles and then publish those summaries on LinkedIn, for example. It's very, very useful. And quite frankly, one of the reasons I do that, sounds like we got some feedback there, but one of the reasons I do that is because, I don't know how you feel about this, Jason, but a lot of articles these days are just chock full of filler words, right? I don't know if it's an SEO thing and they have to be a certain length, but I use a Google Chrome plugin that summarizes it with one click of a button, summarizes an article into a few bullet points and gives me the point of the article. And then I like to share that with my comments and my thoughts about that summary on LinkedIn. And people seem to really appreciate that. And whether, quite frankly, a little secret, whether or not I'm an actual thought leader on that topic, now people see me associated with that thing. I typically, summarize articles that I do know something about, but people associate me with that content and that topic now, and then we can have discussions on the topic and that type of thing, and then really engage with my audience. So that's very, very helpful.
Yeah, I think actually when you were just talking about that, it kind of made me think that, at some point, I think it's our responsibility. Obviously, we want to have, I don't know if ethics is the right word, but we want to make sure that we're using this in a way, and we're talking about things that we're actually good at. Right. And we actually we don't want to misrepresent our firms to say that, hey, we're really good at doing this by using this generative content. Right. And so what I'm going to show you inside of what we're building is we're building something that we call truth-based AI, which is essentially we use generative AI, but only leveraging the content that you feed into it. So it's kind of it's like your proprietary content is used to generate this information and responses for RFPs specifically. But I think it does bring up a really interesting topic, which is that, okay, so now it would appear that anybody could appear to be an expert on a lot of stuff, right? And I think that people are eventually they're gonna figure that out. And I think that we as content creators, we still need to be very critical of how we're using these technologies to accelerate and making sure that the content that we're creating is actually, based on the experience of the firm. But again, super powerful as it relates to generating content, brainstorming and ideas, just getting rid of that blank piece of paper, getting a starting point. So it's really interesting if you wanted to go out and ask any one of these technologies to, hey, I'm responsible for generating the content for a new website for a law firm. What sections should I have? Now, fortunately, the entire industry is very, very similar with people, with practices, all that fun stuff. But it would give you a great idea, and a great structure and a great way to start to, again, structure your site. So again, a lot of help that it can provide to you as it relates to the generation of thought leadership pieces. Now, the second area is actually around proposal development. So, one of the things that we work with often is folks like yourself that are responsible for making sure that the firm is represented in a very professional way using the work that we've done. And usually these proposals and these RFPs, it's always frantic, right? It's never like we have enough time to actually sit down and do these things and really think everything through. Deadlines are super powerful. So I'm not saying that we should never not have a deadline. They're super powerful, but it's always very, very frantic. So on a Friday afternoon or whatever, you receive this RFP and you open it up and, the first thing you feel is like, I don't know how to describe it, but just like the weight of the world has been put on you, like, oh my gosh, I have to respond to this RFP. Then of course you say, okay, well, what's the first step? Well, I need to read the thing, right? So you open it and you go, oh, in some cases you'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, we do these things, we do these things, we do these things. And then you're hit with the second moment of despair, which is, I know we've done these things, but do I really want to rewrite all this content that I know I've written before? And then you say, okay, well, I've written it in 15 other proposals, and I think Jane actually wrote some stuff. How do I synthesize that stuff? Right. So it's this kind of several moments of like, oh, we can do this. And then, oh my gosh, this is so much work. Right. And so this is really where generative AI can assist you in that there's literally no reason that you can't take all of your past pitches and proposals, put them into a generative AI model and start to have conversations with those documents. And I'll actually demonstrate that here in a second, which just simply means that if you get an RFP in and it has 59 questions in it, and you have previously uploaded all of your past RFPs into a technology like Ika, you can take those 59 questions and ask this technology to answer those for you. Now, will it be perfect? It'll be pretty good. It will be pretty good. Will you want to embellish and customize it for that specific RFP so that it's less generic and more specific to that RFP? Absolutely. But see, to me, that is the value of this. So why do we need to spend our time coming up with that, generic response that we've done 100 times? Why not we spend 90% of our time crafting the message and crafting the answer so that it's highly specific to what our client is asking for? That to me is super powerful. The pitches and proposals that I've done that are the most successful, or the responses to RFPs that are the most successful are the ones that are first and foremost complete, right? And second, the ones that pay attention to the details that the client is asking for, right? And so the more specific and the more time that you can pay attention to the details and less on the generic questions, the more successful your proposal and RFP processes will be. So again, leveraging generative AI to help in the proposal pitch process, super powerful. The other thing that we're doing is in marketing business development, maybe, I guess maybe I don't know if it's a dirty little secret, but it's the biggest challenge that we've seen our clients go through, which is that, yes, we have hundreds of thousands, or let's just say we have 50,000 matters in our financial system. We've done a bunch of work, but summarizing those pieces of work into bite-sized components that we can put into a pitch or a proposal, or we can put in our RFP, or we can put on our website, or we can start the process of crafting a chamber submission. Getting that summary is extremely difficult, right? Really the only way to do it right now is, if you're not a legal expert in that particular area of law, is to talk with the team that actually did the work. Right. And so what we're doing is we're actually helping you to summarize a matter based on the documents that were created. Now, we're still in the very early stages. We're finding that engagement letters, executive summaries, some of these pieces of content that are created during the engagement are super valuable. But getting you to a point where you at least have a summary, a thumbnail, a tombstone, whatever it is that you want to call it for a matter is super powerful. So that's the second area. Now, what I want to do is I just want to kind of reiterate the three ways that we're seeing AI transforming marketing business development. Obviously, content creation, right? Thought leadership, super important. The second is the reducing time that it takes you to respond to RFPs, so that you can respond to more RFPs with higher quality, and you can personalize those RFPs so that they're not too generic and they're not just automatically generated. So again, doing things like content creation, having answer templates, doing customized responses. And then the third is obviously proposal development. Now, the difference between RFPs, RFPs usually are asked to follow a structure. Proposals and early stage credentialing documents, it's usually all about you and kind of your pretty pictures and formatting and all that stuff. So, there are two aspects of this. Now, one of the things that I mentioned earlier is that Peter was not actually able to join us. But what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to hopefully, let me try to do this. I'm going to stop my video, and then I'm going to go ahead and share out a video that we actually recorded with Peter on Friday. So let's go ahead and get his thoughts on content creation, and then also this RFP process. Fortunately, we have Peter Giovannis on the call. Now, he couldn't join us live for the webinar. So today is actually Friday. We're actually talking to him a little bit early, but he's actually starting a brand new role, I think the first in the industry. So he's a trailblazer yet again. So Peter, welcome. Thank you very much for your time. I know it's going to be a very, very busy Monday for you. But first, before we get into the use cases, why don't you just explain what it is that your new role is and what's new in the world of Peter?
Yeah, I'm really excited to announce that as of today, August 14th, I've accepted the role, and I'm starting as the Chief Innovation and AI Officer for the prestigious law firm of McGuire Woods.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's and I know there was kind of a lot of fanfare about this kind of new role, you being the first with artificial intelligence in your title. So, I think everybody appreciates the trail that you're blazing, and we wish you all the best of luck.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's been really exciting. I posted this on my LinkedIn. The change in the comments coming back is, oh my God, that is the sexiest title ever. So much appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, good. Well, let's see. So, one of the things I really wanted to do is I wanted to get your perspective on a couple of these use cases. And the first is really talking about the work that you've done related to the RFP process and how you've deployed some of these technologies to actually assist in that process.
Yeah, I think this one's really exciting. When we think about generative AI, I think the first thought is, how can we use this to benefit our clients and on the practice side of law? But interesting enough, we found a lot of success experimenting with the business side of law. And part of it was we don't have confidential information. We don't need client permission. We're still, as everyone in the industry is, we're still kind of finding our way. But one of the thought processes, and I think you subscribe to this as well, is the marketing and BD team, they shiver every time they get an RFP or an RFI. It's a ton of work. It could be 10 hours of work. It could be up to 100 hours of manpower, FTE time to complete these. So the simple thought process was, what if we were to take a collection of the questions and, more importantly, our firm's specific answers, and basically put those into a customized database and allow an AI system with generative AI capabilities? Could that help improve the quality of our answers and the efficiency savings? Yeah. And we're thinking, could this be the win-win where we can give who's ever asking for the RFP really wonderfully detailed answers and take some of the burden off of our marketing and BD team at the same time? So that's one that it wasn't top of mind, but as we started playing with it, we kind of put our heads together thinking, this could be a killer use case. Are you seeing the same?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that's exactly what we're focused on. We've been focused on this. It's interesting. We've actually been focused on this particular challenge for a couple of years now, but it's only since really what OpenAI has done that's really allowed us to do this. We were using kind of first generation text summarization and text generation techniques, using Python and Spacey and some of these other large language models. We had mixed results. They were good, but they're nowhere near what we can do with OpenAI specifically. And so, this is one of those use cases where, the way I like to think about it is, that RFP comes in on a Friday afternoon, and, the team that receives it is met with, despair, right? And then they read it and they go, wow, yeah, we've done this before. And then they hit another level of despair, which is, oh gosh, now I have to go through and look through all of my past RFPs and come up with and pull out all those answers in all these Word documents. And so what we're focused on is we're focused on allowing them to have a conversation with a group of documents, in this scenario RFPs, and get those answers. Now, in addition to that, we do allow them to upload the new response and we extract the questions that come from the document itself, allowing them to pick and choose which questions they want help with, and then having what we call ICA automatically respond to those. So yeah, we think it's a perfect use case. And speaking to your point of focusing on, that non-billable hour and kind of the back of the house type operations for this, I think it's a really, really important concept to accept.
And I think there's one other aspect of this where the marketing and BD team is often put in a really no-win situation. And what I mean by that is partner X or partner Y comes to them on that Friday afternoon. The marketing and BD team looks at this going, we've never won this type of work at all, right? But this is obviously 100 hours of work. They're in a bad position. They don't want to have to push back on any partner and say, listen, we're just not going to do this because you don't have a chance. And that partner's thinking, well, it's maybe not implicit, but I've got to bring work into the firm or else, my job is potentially at risk. So it really helps in the sense that if we can get more efficient, marketing and BD doesn't have to be the play the good cop, bad cop with the partner and just produce a quality document and then let the process take its own and allow us to pitch on those. So I think that's another one of these soft advantages that we don't think of right away, but really helps in the overall collaboration of the firm.
Yeah. And they're no longer the gatekeeper. And like you said, they don't have to say, hey, we don't really have much content on this. They're really given the tools to come up with really good responses, right? So it might not be, the best responses that they want, but it is a great starting point. And it allows them to say, hey, yeah, this answer is pretty good. I'm going to color commentate it a little bit. Maybe I'm going to pull in, go to our experience management system. I'm going to do a little bit more research on the specific matters that we've done. So I'm going to add more content to the responses that are provided. But, just getting started, sometimes that is the hardest part on anything really, on any creative endeavor. Getting started and knowing a structure and having a process is the hardest part to success. And that's what these technologies are really good at.
And I think too, even for the partner themselves, having to start with a blank piece of paper is always a challenge. But give a attorney a red pen. They're fantastic at making edits and being creative and getting their story out there. And that's another possibility that we're enabling here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's funny that you bring that up. I write a lot of content, and it drives me nuts when somebody says, hey, you're missing a period. It's like, yeah, but I put 9 other periods in this document and I didn't miss that, but I do appreciate editors, but it is, it does speak to the fact that there are writers and then there are editors and reviewers. And sometimes, just giving somebody a place to start and saying, hey, is this what we're talking about? Yes or no it's extremely powerful. It just gets the thought process going. But the concept of staring at a blank piece of paper or a blank canvas is intimidating, and let's get out of that blank paper. Well, so that's good. Yeah. So in terms of now the use case that you were talking about where they were responding to these questions, were they having a lot of success? I mean, did they use it? Were they finding it? Did it make a difference in their life and kind of how they were responding to these RFPs?
Yeah, I think the answer is yes, all the way around, from quality of life, from marketing and BD to the quality of the RFP, RFI responses, I think have been improved. Having a bank of our common answers and being able to easily update those. And then just as we just spoke about, being able to get something that was first draft in front of that partner very quickly in the process, allow them to put their own thoughts into it, and then quickly be able to turn that back to who's ever requesting it. It's a game changer for BD. Yeah,
it's huge. Now, I know there was one other use case that you wanted to talk about, and I think that it was around thought leadership and what we're generally considering content creation and thought leadership. So tell me some of the use cases that you've had related to that.
Yeah, so very early on in the process, I'm going to kind of say fall of 2022, we got access to one of the first generation of the large language models. And what we started thinking was the firm does blogs, we do thought leadership pieces, we can help a partner write a white paper, or if there's a new regulatory issue that comes out, be able to do it. So we had a couple ideas. One was just helping us generate, where you can give it a couple bullet points and then allow generative AI to basically write the first draft for you. And then again, same process, put that in front of the partner, get their thoughts. We've got something thought leadership piece. But the other part of it was we send emails, whether it's inviting someone to, maybe I'm making this up, a golf outing or a social event. And it may be by industry, and industries may be a little different. You can also look at the person that you're soliciting this invitation to in their LinkedIn and help to write a more customized message. And then even the subject lines, we're kind of doing A/B testing. And we put our traditional subject line and let generative AI create the other one, and seeing where was our response rate better, whether it was opening up a thought leadership piece or something else. So really simple concepts, and it's really kind of marketing 101. Yeah. But having this tool be able to make us more efficient and kind of empower the whole process, again, seemed to be really a killer app for us.
Yeah. Yeah. And did you build anything custom for that, or were you using just the ChatGPT stuff, or what was the process?
Well, this was a precursor to ChatGPT. I mean, I can mention it if you like.
Yeah.
Can I mention it? We were using a tool called copy.ai.
Okay. Got it. Okay. Perfect. And so you were using that, and were you just educating on people on the usage of that, or did you build a custom application?
No, we're just using the core product of copy.ai. And again, this is precursor of even ChatGPT being announced. So that was November 30th. We were doing this in October. So we were really early adopters. And part of it was just learning. Everybody was mesmerized on how this worked. Or we didn't understand it at the time, but the output was awe-inspiring. So we were just trying to understand the capabilities. How could we use this? In the marketing and the BD team were the first ones to raise their hand saying, I think we got some ideas here. I think we could use this.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, so in terms of, I mean, have you given much thought about, your roadmap as it relates to marketing and business development and AI? I mean, are you going to take that as one of the core use cases going forward, or are you going to look more at some of the other areas of the firm?
Well, this is day one of my new job. So I'm going to have a bunch of orientation, and that will be one of the first things that I want to deliver is kind of that roadmap. So my thought process is to kind of do a current state assessment, understand the maturity of each of the kind of the core business and practice areas, and come up with some recommendations to kind of give us that competitive advantage going forward. And as I think about this again, the practice of law use cases have a lot of challenges, whether it's ethical type challenges or getting client consent at this early stage or understanding the security. I think the business side of law is more ripe and may have a more impactful, impactful bottom line presence. So
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And, I know that this was kind of a last minute adjustment to the schedule, but I really do appreciate you taking some time, and I'm sure you're going to get a lot of LinkedIn hits and a lot of people reaching out to you, if not just from this webinar, but just from the excitement around all these technologies and how it's having an impact on the legal industry specifically.
It's all very welcome. I appreciate it all. Thank you.
All right, let's see. I'm going to try to put my video back on here. Okay, good. So let's go ahead and jump back into it. So again, I apologize that we didn't have him live, but I think that I know there were a couple of repeats on some things that I'd said, but I'm hoping that including Peter there was really helpful. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen out again here and just kind of close out with a couple additional thoughts. Patrick, was there anything that you wanted to add on top of what Peter was saying specifically? Did anything come to mind that you wanted to add there?
Well, one of the things I like that he talked about, and you mentioned it earlier, I think a good way to get into the use of generative AI is attacking the non-billable hour, right? I think that's great, because if you can use these tools to for the practice of law, and so for example, if you typically take 8 hours to generate a brief, and now you can do that in 8 minutes, the problem with billable if you're charging your client by the hour, is how do you make up that time? So there's the hyper efficiency problem if you are taking away the revenue from the ability to generate revenue from a law firm. So when you're focusing on the administrative end of the firm, and you are attacking the non-billable hour, that's great, because that's not revenue, that's expense. So if you can reduce the amount of expense while maintaining the revenue, that's going to increase your profits. So I'm a big fan of that. Whenever someone tells me that they're very reluctant to even think about that because of the business model of a law firm, I said, well, I say, well, think about the non-billable work, the administrative work that you can make much more efficient. Because at the end of the day, and this is why I'm very interested in this, this is the epitome of knowledge management, right? Don't reinvent the wheel. Don't start from a blank sheet of paper, as we've talked about before. Be as efficient as you can with the things that make sense to be efficient with. And it can really, really have a profound impact on the business of the firm, for sure.
Yeah. And I think, one of the things that I would have to imagine would be an outcome of these technologies is that our firms need to kind of rethink how they're providing these services. And I think that there will be massive efficiency gains. And I think that one of the things, at least in the technology industry, that you kind of hear as a mantra, or it's just a pretty common understanding, which is that disrupt yourself before someone else does. And I think that firms will need to really take a step back and ask themselves, how is this going to change the way law services are provided? And it's a unique opportunity for those that get the model right early to become more efficient. I think that there's always talk about alternate fee arrangements and how do we position our services so that it's not based on the billable hour. I think this is yet another one of those disruptive events that will kind of force those types of conversations. I also believe, and I was talking a little bit with Peter about this, is that what I kind of see happening is that there will be a kind of whether it's a code of conduct or a manifesto or something that each firm will need to craft that says, hey, this is how we use artificial intelligence-based technologies in providing legal services to you, right? And so there's going to be some level of, again, code of conduct or something that if the industry doesn't come to as a whole, I would have to assume that individual firms will come up with those code of conducts. So it's really, really fascinating. And I think that, looking at these technologies, again, as you said, attacking the non-billable hour, let's do it. Let's do it now. And I think the long-term, the roadmap into the billable, non-billable hour, I think that's an evolution that will happen. We just have a little more time.
I think you're right. You need to be at least ready to disrupt yourself, right? The worst thing that could happen to a law firm, maybe not the worst thing, but a very bad thing that could happen with a law firm is that you are not ready. You are not prepared. You don't know enough about these technologies, and you haven't at least tried to use them, and you're not ready to make a switch, or at least a gradual change. And when a client comes to you, and it's, I've worked for a lot of law firms, and I think it's safe to say that most of our corporate clients are way ahead of law firms in terms of technology and the ability and the desire to be more innovative, to be more cutting edge. Law firms have a reputation, most law firms have a reputation of doing it the same old way. If you're not at least ready as a law firm, when that client calls and says, hey, everyone's talking about this AI stuff, I've seen and heard about companies that can help us do things much more efficiently. Let's do some of our matters in an AFA. and let's do it this way. And we want you to use these high efficiency tools. And if you're a law firm that says, well, we're not ready for that, it's going to take us a while to spin that up, it's, that's not good, right? That's when clients start looking to other firms. And there's a number of them out there that are starting to, advertise and put out thought leadership pieces about how they're addressing their use of AI. Now they're going to start looking around and saying, well, our firm's not ready to do this. Why don't we test out this other firm with a couple of matters? And then all of a sudden, that firm's got a lot more of their business, and you've fallen behind because you didn't prepare. So at least dip your toe into this, at least educate yourself, at least attack the non-billable hour so that you can be ready to think about attacking the billable hour at some point when you're ready for it and when your clients come calling for it.
Yeah. Build some momentum on things that you can impact now, learn, and then obviously start to incorporate those into the primary practice. So, well, good. I think hopefully that was an insightful series of conversations. The last thing that we want to talk about is to show you an example of this technology in use. And so ICA, which is what we call an intelligent knowledge assistant, is really based on kind of one of our core principles, which seems to be obvious, but this concept of truth-based AI. And so this whole truth-based concept came out because very early on in using ChatGPT, you could ask it all kinds of questions and it would come back with very compelling answers. And as you probably know, the answers that it came back with were not always truth-based, right? So it would make things up. If you asked it, how much, at one point I asked, what is ikaun's annual revenue? And it came back with an answer that was just completely false, right? But it sounded really convincing. It was great. But so that's kind of where this came from, and working with the APIs early, it's something that becomes very obvious. I mean, you may have heard it as hallucinations and things like that. So, this concept of truth-based AI, and the only way to get to truth-based AI is to use content or to let the large language model know that, hey, here are your boundaries for answers, right? So here's what you know, right? So don't go out and use other things. Here's what you know. We need to feed it the information that are the quote facts. And what we feel are facts are when you've written an RFP, a proposal, et cetera, you've said this is what the firm's done, right? And so we consider those to be facts. Maybe you've embellished, but everything's fact-based. But so at that point, we will use that corpus of documents to come up with answers and to do the generative creative process, but using content that you've provided. And there are a couple things that I think are really important, which is that, many firms are a little gun shy on using these technologies because they're like, well, I can't really ask ChatGPT or I can't feed proprietary content to ChatGPT because it becomes part of the brain and which to a certain extent is true, but our technology is using Microsoft's OpenAI container. What that means is that it's built around security, compliance, and privacy. And what that means is that your documents are not available to other customers. It's not available to OpenAI. It doesn't help OpenAI improve its model. None of your content is available to Microsoft, to ikaun, to third-party providers. It's yours. It's dedicated. It's isolated. And so, this is a very, very important aspect of the technology set that we're bringing to bear. And so again, the workflow here is that you have a whole bunch of past RFPs, pitches, and proposals. You upload it to ICA. ICA more or less vectorizes these documents and makes it so that we can search them much more efficiently. But then you can also upload new RFPs as they come in. It can read the questions that come out, extract those, and then give you a roadmap for filling that out. So what I want to do now is I want to jump into ICA. And again, I'm just going to go through the solution just real quick. So again, an RFP comes in, you've created past responses. So that's in the responses section. So if I go here, you can see that we've listed out, I've only uploaded 3 documents, but if I go into one of these, you can see that, hey, the first thing we do when you upload a document is we create an abstract. So it says, hey, this talks about Icaun's experience management platform and how we integrate with CRM and various backend systems. Behind the scenes, the document itself is what you might expect around a pretty typical RFP response, right? So, pretty typical. These are all of our responses. So that's the first thing that you do. And what I've done is I've uploaded 3. Now, what I can do is I can start to do things like, let's say, please describe Icaun's reporting capability. Right. So I can ask it that question. And what it's doing is it's looking at, in this case, a very small corpus of documents, 3 documents, and it's creating a consolidated or an aggregated answer to that question based on the contents of this document. Now, this right here, it says Icaun has robust reporting capabilities, et cetera, like that. Those words are not actually in that order, are not actually in any of these 3 documents. It's actually gone through and it says, hey, I found something about reporting in this RFI for law firm 2. Found something in this RFI in December 2021. I found something in this law firm 1, right? And it created a consolidated answer for that based on all of the documents that you have input. Now, we like to focus a lot on the marketing and the business development side, but oftentimes when you're doing these responses, there might be questions related to how does your firm use artificial intelligence in the practice of law? And maybe as marketing BD folks, you're not actually going to answer that question. A very, very common one would be, tell me about your ISO certifications, or tell me about the collaboration tools that you provide to us as the clients if we were to engage with you. Oftentimes those questions need to be answered by IT, someone like Patrick who runs knowledge management. So what you can do is you can upload other types of documents that aren't just pitches and proposals. And so here again, what I'm doing is I'm having a conversation with these documents. So I can also do what systems does, what systems does Icaun integrate with? And so again, it's going to go out and it's going to come back with a custom answer based on the content within those documents. So it talks about our integration with CMSs, and we have APIs, and we can integrate with Adorant and 3E and all that fun stuff. So again, you upload your documents and you can have conversations with those documents. That's the first piece. The second is the request itself. So this is the Friday afternoon mad dash, right? So first thing you do, you open up the document and it's very, very long. So what we allow you to do is you can actually upload the RFP itself. And I'm going to just give you an example of what this is. So this is just a really, really basic RFP. It asks about experience management, content library, things like that. But you can see that we've uploaded this document into the environment, and what it's doing is it's processing it, and what it's attempting to do, and I probably should have started this before I was asking questions, but it's actually reading that document and identifying the questions that are found within it. So while that's kind of thinking, what I'm going to do is I will come in here and start asking more questions like, let's see, so how does Icaun import matter information? Right, so I can ask another question. And actually, this is good timing because you can see that this particular document actually came back, and you can see that it created a summary. So it's a summary of a project overview and requirements for a software solution that captures experience information, centralizes content. So that's from the document itself. So it created an abstract, but then you can see that it also came in and extracted questions. So can the software integrate with current firm branded templates? Can the software show recommended suggestions? And again, I'm showing you in the context of ikaun itself, right? So we respond to RFPs. And the reason that I'm doing that is I have example RFPs that we've responded to, as well as the questions. But in your world, it'll obviously be based on the questions that you all get asked. But at this point, what I can do is I can click generate answer. And it's going to, again, automatically ask Ika to provide those answers. And so, again, just to summarize what I've shown you is that one, you upload all of your past pitches and proposals, and you can have conversations with those documents, right? You could literally open up a past RFP and paste a question into the question section here, and it'll provide an answer. The second thing that I've shown you is how you can upload a new RFP that comes in, and how Ika will extract all the questions and allow you to pick which questions you want to have answered. You click generate answer, and then what it does is, hey, can the software integrate with current firm branded templates? And it gives you back that answer. So it says allowing you to pull information into submission templates, proposal templates, brand friendly formats, right? So it's automatically answering those questions. So again, just wanted to show you a real working solution where you can leverage a purpose-built generative AI to solve a very, I'm sure, laborious process that you all have to go through. And so in closing, I just want a couple things. One, we are continuing to bring on new testers for this technology. So if you're interested in doing a proof of concept with Ika, please feel free to reach out. We will provide, or we will do some follow-up emails on this. So please just reply. You can actually reach out to me. I'm jason@ikaun.com, which is ikaun.com if you're interested in doing a proof of concept with Ika. But the final thing that I wanted to mention was that Patrick is actually doing a great conference here in October in New York. And he's been kind enough to provide you all with a pretty significant discount code. But Patrick, did you just want to do maybe 30 seconds on what your KM&I conference is?
Jason, I think you froze there for a second, but yeah, so the conference is in October in New York City, Knowledge Management and Innovation. Thank you for allowing me to talk about it for a moment here. I really appreciate it. It's going to be a fantastic 2-day event, and it really runs the gamut of KM and innovation. And again, a lot of what we talk about there is how law firms and in-house legal departments can do things better, stronger, faster. Today's presentation was just one example of how we can use AI, and there'll be a couple of sessions on AI and how firms are actually using them in actual practice, for example. But there'll be lots of other great examples of really great use cases, very practical presentations. That's one of the hallmarks of this conference over several others. You're going to walk away from the conference with lots of great inspiring information and examples of what your colleagues from other firms are doing. So I hope to see lots of you there. Thank you very much for promoting the discount. I appreciate that, Jason. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And again, thanks everyone for taking some time out of your, I'm assuming, busy Monday. Again, feel free to reach out. We will follow up with you, but anybody with questions, comments, if you're interested in Ika or any of our other technologies, please reach out, jason@ikaun.com. I'm happy to share a conversation with you.
Hey,
So
Jason, we have a couple questions in the chat.
Let's
Get to them quickly. So Jennifer asked, what is the Google Chrome plugin that Patrick uses to summarize articles?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, so there's a couple of them. One of them is called Summarize Everything. So if you go into the Google Chrome extension store or whatever they call that, Summarize Everything, I think it's exclamation point. And then I've been playing with a new one, and that one is called, give me one second, ChatGPT Summary for Chrome. So I've been playing with both of those, and they're obviously relatively new. So you have to play around with them, but very, very handy. You just, you're on any article's web page, and then you click that button, and it's a nice quick summary. Very helpful.
And Stephanie had a couple questions regarding Ika. She says, I'm interested to know if the request tab has an option to filter the prompt search results by proposal wins solely.
Yeah. So we have a concept that we call labels. So what you can do is you can label a response as a quote winning response. And when you answer questions, you can say, hey, only give me answers from winning proposals. The interesting thing about winning and lost proposals, as you know, just because you lose a proposal doesn't mean the quality of the content is good. So just something to keep in mind there. But yeah, absolutely. We have a concept we call labeling.
And her second question was, when uploading to the responses repository, is there an option to choose loss, win, or awaiting outcome? If so, is there an option to update an awaiting outcome response when the win loss is solidified?
Yeah, that's pretty intense. But yeah, so using that same concept, when you upload your response, you'll actually label those as winning, win, loss, or any of the other various outcomes that you would be interested in. And again, when you ask Ika to generate an answer, you can make it so when you're having a conversation, I was showing you that chat, you can make it so that you're only having conversations with winning documents. And again, happy to, maybe we can set up a more detailed demonstration, but happy to drill into those for sure. Anything else?
That's it from the chat.
Cool. All right, folks. Well, hopefully this was valuable. Again, appreciate everyone's time, and we're here. So please reach out.